Shot of moonshine first here. It's good to be home. Thanks for disguising that for me, Mike. So yeah, I'm Stevie D, Stephen Dupin, legally here from Owensboro, Kentucky. Born in 1966, Mercy Hospital. Same hospital as Johnny Depp, right? So. Johnny doesn't talk about being from Owensboro too much, does he? He's too cool for that, man. He's cool, yeah. Polished nails and smoking the European cigarettes.
I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. Savvy.
But yeah, I grew up around here and went to Apollo High and went to Cravens Elementary, went to Faust, went to Daviess County Middle School. Always knew I wanted to do something in entertainment, but I'd tell my mom, and Mom, someday I'm going to be on TV. And she'd say, okay, kid, eating the paint chips again, huh? When I was in 11th grade, a buddy of mine's parents invited me to go to Panama City Beach for spring break. I'd never seen a beach before, and when we showed up, I just jumped out of the car and saw the ocean and said, man, I got to move down here, man. They got oceans and white sands. But there was a nightclub down there called Spinnaker. And I looked at this nightclub and I said, man, I'm going to move down here and be a DJ. And I'd never DJ'd before, and I worked my way up the ranks and then became the head DJ and seeing all the spring break stuff. And they said, we don't need you behind the turntables anymore. Just go out there and be stupid in front of thousands of people. And I said, I got that. But yeah, too bad I didn't go to D.C. and see the White House or something and say, I'm going to be the president, but... So from there, after 3 years in Panama City and going out and making people laugh and being stupid and doing characters and doing all this stuff on stage, I said, well, I want to be on TV. And I go out to LA and then I said, where can I put all this nonsense I know how to do? I said, stand-up comedy. And so I started stand-up in, I think, 93 and did the improvs and laugh factories and all that stuff. Growing up here in Kentucky, and especially in Owensboro, a small town, gave me a lot of material. And the comedy, it's all about your point of view. It's who you are. You can be a put-on. There's a lot of comics that are like a character. Andrew Dice Clay is a character. He's a Jewish guy. He's playing this, he's playing this cool Italian guy, but it's a character. But I had to be true to myself and where I came from. And I'm proud of being from Kentucky. And everybody in LA knows they call me Hillbilly. And I drove a Trans Am. I called it my Kentucky Porsche. I'd pull up to the comedy club and say, don't open the door. I'd jump out of the T-tops. I had a wild reputation, in Hollywood, and I met my wife. She's a California girl. Met her at the Comedy Store. We started having a family. I started chilling out a little bit. Had my son, and then I'd be in the gym and I'd see these commercials of like old people. TVs would be on, CNN or Fox, and it'd say, "Are you going to the restroom a lot at night?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I started, getting up like 5 times a night. Started feeling like something foreign's in my body. And so I went in specifically and said, hey, I see these commercials about the prostate. Do I have an enlarged prostate? And so he just did the manual. I won't go into the details, but, checked under the hood.
Some sit-ups in the morning or bent over like this, I'd probably feel 100% better. Moon River.
And said, no, you're probably just drinking too much water. So, all right, you want to believe the doctor. So progressively the pain started getting worse and worse. And like 2 years later, I went back in. I was with a different insurance company, and just for a standard physical, they do the blood test. He called me 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember it. I remember it to the day I die. I'm in traffic in LA. I get the call, and he's like, "Hey, Steve, well, I checked your lab results, came back, and yeah, you have cancer." I started sweating and rolled down the windows. I have cancer? I was like, "Yeah, well, you have cancer. We'll talk about your options." I go, "Should I go to work tomorrow?" And he was kind of, smug. "Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you go to work?" Well, because I could be dying, I don't know. And he goes, "Look, I'm going on vacation tomorrow for 3 weeks. And as soon as I get back, you and I are going to talk about your options." I said, "No, you and I aren't going to talk because I'm not going to wait 3 weeks." Through a friend that's a producer, she put me in touch with Dr. David Agus, who was Lance Armstrong's doctor, Michael Milken's doctor, very famous cancer guy. And he says, "You need to do robotics." So I found out what robotics was. I did my homework and got to the surgeon. I was lucky enough, he recommended his college roommate, which was a very respected guy. I stalked this guy, went to 5 different hospitals, so I wouldn't stop until I got an appointment with him. They said, yeah, that was cancer 2 years ago. So for 2 years I was walking around knowing something funky was going on, but didn't know it was cancer. The way I look at it as a silver lining is in that 2-year window, my daughter was born. And if they would have caught it the first time 2 years prior, I wouldn't have any more kids. I just have one little mini-me, my son Colin running around, but now I have my daughter, whose name happens to be Faith. So, and she's enough trouble for 10 kids. So we're good. Shop is closed, but 2 healthy kids. When I was diagnosed immediately with my twisted brain, it wasn't 24 hours. I was thinking about movie scripts and some guy that pulls off a heist, and because he's dying, he wants to provide for his family. But then I thought of writing a book. So I started writing feverishly every night. I'd stay up every night. When I was writing the book, I would tell my wife every night I'm writing a book, and she'd say, "You can barely read a book. How are you writing a book?" But I didn't want it to be a heavy cancer or bum-out book. I wanted it to be funny, had some crazy stories. So I wrote it. I'd think of a chapter, I'd think of like my Uncle Ricky. As a kid here, he'd pick me up at 9 years old, and we'd go out in the country, and I would drive a straight shift, and we'd shoot guns, and he'd be drinking beer and smoking, some hippie stuff, and blaze on. If I couldn't reach the clutch, if you can't find them, grind them. Hell, Stevie, blaze on. And blaze on means, keep blazing, don't worry about anything. So, you can't make this stuff up. And, all the hell raising I, did around here. So I started thinking of these stories and my life. My father died when I was, 15, and just, I was on my own. I lived on my own in high school. And so I said, there's some good stories here. So what I did with the cancer, I just wove that narrative through all these chapters. It's not exactly chronological order. It's pretty much chronological order, but you could take a chapter out separately and read that in its own entity. I wanted every chapter at the end to have a payoff. I wanted to read, and it kind of fizzles out like a bad Saturday Night Live sketch where, well, it's funny for a minute, and then blah, 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 blah. So I wanted to have a payoff. It was going somewhere, and like I said, the cancer is just a narrative, and it's an update. I talk about embarrassing things that men don't want to talk about. Wearing an adult diaper right after the surgery, you're walking. Mine looked like the size of Shaquille O'Neal's underwear, and I'm walking like this, and stuff that you just don't want to talk about. When the book came out, I'd get hit up on Facebook. And people say, "Hey man, what about that time we were running from the cops and we ran into a ditch?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." There was a lot of stories I didn't get to tell, so that inspired me to write another book. And I've got 40-something stories now of just mostly fun, all fun stuff. So the next book is going to be all comedy, less cancer.